Hey there. So have you been thrown around the idea of making a move or relocating here to Utah, but you want to make sure you do all of your research? Well, you're in luck because today I am going to be sharing with you some things that I wish I would have known before I made the move from California here to Utah. And we're going to hop into the good stuff right now. Hey there, Mariah here. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if this is your very first time here. This channel is literally everything you need to know about eating, working, playing, sleeping, and living in the Salt Lake City, Utah area. If that is of interest to you, consider subscribing down below and make sure you tap that bell for notifications so you are notified every time we drop a new video. We hear from people like you all the time who are relocating or looking to make a move here to Utah, and we absolutely love it. So if you're thinking about making a move in a week, in a month, or even a year from now, feel free to give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email, and my team and I would absolutely love to connect with you. Hey there. So you're thinking about making a move here to Utah, but you really want to make sure you're doing all your homework? Well, you are in good company, because I too, before I moved here to Utah, I really wanted to make sure, okay, I want to know everything I'm getting myself into. And sure, there's always going to be little hiccups here and there or things that you didn't expect. But if you know going into it, hey, here's some important things that you should know before you move here, it makes it so much better. So number one, we have to talk about the snow and the weather, because that's what we do here in Utah. Number one, when is the first snow? And that's what a lot of times people ask me, are like, Mariah, okay, I know it's going to snow in Utah because of course Utah is known for having like the greatest snow on earth, right? Of course. Well, the first snow is typically in November. Some years it snows before that. Like this year, it started snowing in the middle of October. Yes, the middle of October. I totally was not ready for it, but it happened. My kids loved it. It didn't snow on Halloween. And in fact, all the snow and the valley and everything was already melted by the time Halloween came around. But yes, it snowed the middle of October. Again, it melted, but usually you're going to see snow sometime in the middle of November, typically. Usually we've been out here for like many Thanksgivings, and a lot of times on Thanksgiving it doesn't snow, but usually you can expect to see snow in December. And then you can also, January and February are the coldest months here in Utah. So expect to be bundled, expect to be cold a little bit in January and February. And then when does the snow end? That's the other question I get typically. So you're going to have snow in December, January, February. March is usually, you'll have snow in March, but not usually a lot. April, you'll get an occasional snowstorm. And then same with May. I remember last year we had, it didn't snow all through May. And then it was like the last week in May, we had 2 days of snow and then it all melted. And that was the end of the snow. So it really just does depend. One thing you should keep in mind though with the snow, yes, it will snow, but there are a lot of sunny days here in Utah. I think I was looking at it recently, and I think it was 230 sunny days here in Utah. So yes, it snows, but a lot of times after it snows, the sun will come out and it's beautiful and bright and all of that. And a lot of times the snow will melt simply because the sun is out. But the higher up you go in the mountains, obviously the more snow there'll be. The lower down, the lower elevation you are at, the less you will have. So keep that in mind. Number two, kind of going along with elevation, is the elevation. When you come, and I remember we came from California at sea level. So I remember, and I'm very active, so I love being outside and I love running and biking and hiking and I like doing all those things. And I just remember like the altitude and the elevation, I remember thinking, woo, this is serious. And because the elevation here in Utah is a lot higher than it is in a lot of other places, you're going to notice it, especially if you are active and you're working out. Yes, you'll climatize to it and you'll acclimate to it, but just something to be aware of is that elevation, is that altitude. I know sometimes people that have come here have been like, oh, you know what? Like that first day, it kind of felt a little bit weird, but I think for them, it really was just that altitude. So keep that in mind, something to help that. Drink a lot of water, make sure you're staying hydrated, and that really can help that altitude. Going along with temperature, going along with the altitude and the elevation, number 3 is going to be the dryness. Yes, the dryness. Because of the altitude, because of the elevation here in Utah, and because Utah is actually a desert. Yes, it is a desert, but yes, there's lots of mountains and there's other things here, but you will notice it is a lot drier. So make sure you have plenty of lotion and chapstick and stuff like that. I know when we moved here, we all of a sudden were like, oh, we rarely put on lotion and chapstick and all of that stuff where we were before down in Southern California, just because the humidity was so much more that we, yes, we put it on, but it just wasn't something that was part of our daily habit and daily ritual. Here in Utah, because of the dryness, you are definitely going to want to keep a chapstick in your pocket or keep a whatever, just because of the dryness. So number 4, moving right along with the, hey, I wish I would have known this before I moved here, is yes, Utah is surrounded by mountains, but there are a lot of flat areas. There's a lot of agriculture. There is a lot of, lakes and reservoirs here in Utah as well. So you're going to have plenty of mountains. And also something that you want to know about Utah is northern and southern Utah are very different. Yes, very different, even simply for the climate. So I know some people are like, oh yeah, I'm thinking about moving to Utah. And I'm like, oh, awesome. Where are you thinking about moving? They're like, I don't know. We're not quite sure yet. And I said, oh, okay. Are you thinking more northern? Or are you thinking more southern? It's like, I don't know. I've just heard a lot of good things about Utah. Well, something that you should know about Utah, because northern, because southern, very different climates, and southern Utah is going to be more of your St. George, more of your Cedar City, and your 5 national parks that are in Utah are all in the southern area. You're going to see a lot of red rock. You're going to see it's more desert, and the summers are going to get a lot hotter. Yes, a lot hotter than the northern. And you will see snow in southern Utah, depending on where you are. If you are in that Cedar City area, a little ski resort, but that's a fun little area that lots of pine trees, and you feel like you're almost in northern Utah, but you're still in southern Utah. But southern Utah, again, it's going to be a lot hotter in the summer, but your winters are going to be much, much more mild than northern. So northern Utah, you are going to see a lot colder winters, and you're going to see hot summers, but not nearly as hot as you will down in southern Utah. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. And a lot of people that are in northern Utah, they will go during the winter time down to southern Utah, and that's where they'll spend a lot more of their time. And same thing with vice versa. In the summertime, they will come up here into northern Utah where it's a little bit cooler. So just kind of know which area you're thinking about of Utah, because they are very, very different. Another thing that you should be aware of here are the taxes. Depending on what state you are living here in Utah, they are a flat tax state. So it's about 4.85% is that flat tax. So depending on how much you make, you still pay that flat tax. Whereas in some other states, depending on how much you make, there is a gradual scale. You will either pay more or less depending on that. But here in Utah, some businesses love coming here to Utah just because, again, it is that flat tax. And then going along with taxes, property taxes. And I've had people that have relocated here from other states and they're like, what? This is what property taxes are? They are 1% of that purchase price. So residential property, if it is your primary residence, you receive 45% tax exemption. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. That might be better than where you were coming from, or it may be worse. So that might be a pro for you. It might be a con, but just something that you should be aware of as well, those taxes. Another thing to keep in mind moving here to Utah is simply the accessibility of where Utah is located And if you are moving right to the Salt Lake City, Utah area, depending on, if you're going down to Southern California and you are driving, it's about a 9.5 hour drive. If you are headed up to Idaho, it's about a 4 hour drive. If you're headed over to Montana, or you're headed, depending on where you are headed, it is very accessible by car. And I know we have friends here that are like, oh yeah, we're going to go visit our family in Arizona, 8 hours away, right? Oh, we're headed to California. Oh, we're headed over to Oregon. So where it is located by a car drive, it's actually very accessible. So some people love that. And then because Salt Lake has an international airport here, you're an hour plane flight from a lot of different places. So its accessibility here in Utah is really nice. Going along with accessibility is the traffic. Now, because more people have moved here to Utah, yes, the traffic has increased. And I know sometimes people are like, wait a minute, I moved to Utah because I thought there was not going to be any traffic. Traffic here is significantly less than you're going to find in LA. It's a lot less than you're going to find in a lot of other places. But yes, if you are on the freeway on the 15 and you are going during rush hour or there's an accident, you will be sitting there for a while. But and again, too, when you're going east to west or west to east and you're in the Salt Lake area, a lot of those streets can get backed up when you're going from, like I said, east to west and west to east during that busy time. So if you're able to plan your commute, not during busy, rush hour hours, you will probably be a much happier camper. And last but not least is just the job market that is here in Utah. The number of jobs that are here is significant. Unemployment here is very low. In fact, the last I checked, it was below 3%. And I know, talking to lots of people are looking to hire at all different sorts of, positions. If you're looking at education, if you're looking at ski instructor, if you're looking, and speaking of ski instructor, seasonal positions here in Utah, especially during the winter time, there are a lot. I was actually just talking to a gentleman recently that moved from Northern California out here to Utah, and he's retired and he works at a ski resort. And he's like, oh, I've had so much fun working at the ski resort. He's like, it's kind of sad though, because we had to close a couple of the lifts last year just because we didn't have enough employees. I said, you're kidding? No way. Because yeah, we need to hire more people to come work. So if you're looking for seasonal job opportunities too, there are a lot of those at the different resorts. And then you've got the Silicon Slopes that are located in Lehi, Utah, with companies from all over the place. You've got Google and Facebook and Ancestry.com and Visa. I mean, there's just so many companies that are coming here to Utah. So hopefully this gives you a little bit of a snapshot of, hey, here's some things that I need to keep in mind before I make the move or I think about relocating. Just have these in the back of your mind about the weather, about the traffic, about the altitude, the dryness, just a few things that you should be aware of. And then you won't be shocked when you come out, because when you come out and you're like, man, my hands are really dry, you'll be like, oh yeah, Mariah told me that. Oh, hey, there is traffic going from east to west or west or east right during those busy times. Don't be surprised at that, because you will see that. So if you are thinking about making a move or relocating out here to Utah in a week, in a month, or even a year from now, I would love to connect with you. So feel free to give me a call, shoot me a text, or send me an email, and my team and I would absolutely love to connect with you. Take care and have a great one. Bye.